ready to go. It's time to look at the worst animated catastrophes to ever foul the big screen. While many of us grew up with a grand selection of emotionally moving, unforgettable animated movies, in the shadows of those movies were some really lousy films, ranging from the ridiculously lazy, to the overly sappy, to the just plain bizarre. So let's dive right into the top 10 worst animated movies of all time. And as always, if you do like these cartoons, that's great. I'm pretty biased, and it's great that you can enjoy something that I'm not able to. So take this list with a pinch of salt. Anyway, let's do this countdown. Number 10. Delgo. Deep in a manure-covered land, where humans look like broken 3D models, and opposing races look like generic World of Warcraft lizards. Two races war! Well, at least, I think they're warring. The 3D models kind of bump up together and then one normally falls over. So the story is, the Norin settle in the land of Jamora with the permission of the Lochni? There's a teenager in there trying to protect his race in a war, I think? The story is just all over the place in this one. I tried to follow it, I really did. But it's like watching a swarm of bees mating in a hive. Creepy, completely incomprehensible, and slightly nauseating. Everything in this movie just felt so artificial. The characters moved like robots. The interactions of the characters all felt awkward and just irritating for some reason. This movie was despised by the public. Delgo managed to break box office records in how bad it did, while somehow costing $40 million to make. The film grossed less than 700 grand. This one's at the top of the list because I do respect the creator's attempts to make something completely innovative. I mean, there was an entire alien ecosystem going on in the background. We just couldn't see it because of the swishy crap-colored CG. All the creator's intentions were good. It's a shame the film is so awkward, makes no sense, and looks like a swarm of bees. And for number 9, Ratatouille. Remember how thought-provoking, artistic, and beautiful Ratatouille was? Well, imagine if a crazy hobo decided to remake this movie and painted the whole thing with the grime from under his fingernails. That would be brilliant animation compared to Ratatouille. Even the name Ratatouille. It sounds like the creators couldn't actually pronounce Ratatouille and just gave up halfway and put a fart on the end.
Ratatouille.
This 3D modeling, I didn't know it got this bad. I liked that it had some anime voice actors I recognized, but the animation alone makes it absolutely abysmal beyond saving.
From set, the food is great at Ratatouille.
Boy, that's the truth. It was my
6.5 hours later.
I don't usually like ice cream unless I'm certain that it's absolute.
3 days later.
young man. I'm impressed.
Oh, get on with it! Are we going to do anything in this movie? I'm sure the food is very nice. It's all very inoffensive, but are you trying to bore your audience to death with these? What am I even watching? It's a blatant ripoff of Ratatouille that attempted to capitalize on those unfortunate enough to mistake the title for the Pixar masterpiece. The only redeeming factor is that I recognize some of the English anime dub voice actors, who were clearly desperate for work to agree to voice acting this trash heap. Ratatouille. This one deserves no attention. And for number 8, Tappy Toes. There are sometimes movies that pay homage to a previous movie. Then there are blatant rip-offs of popular franchises. Then there are mockbusters like Tappy Toes. Something that kind of resembles a movie, and that is profitable purely on grandmas who accidentally pick it up, mistaking it for the original movie. In order to capitalize on the well-intentioned grandma, 95% of this movie's budget went into the DVD cover, making it as deceptive as possible. This movie leaves me, well, ambivalent, because I like penguins. I just don't like horrendously average movies attempting to deceive the over 80. It's probably no surprise to anyone that the animation looks like it was done by a first-year animation student, purposely trying to get an F on his next assignment. The voice acting is a mixed bag of poisons and sharp daggers.
Throw myself on your mercy!
And the story has such slow pacing that I had to take a break every 10 minutes to avoid dying of boredom. There's not much else to say on Tappy Toes. It's basically a shameless, cheap rip-off of Happy Feet that is profoundly dull. And the seventh worst is Tentacolino, aka In Search of the Titanic. I really have to give credit to how bad this movie's animation is. The animation has that South Korean sweatshop feel to it, where you can't quite work out what the animals were originally meant to be. The story seems to be that our unidentifiable, badly animated friends are searching for the ruins of the Titanic and come across the lost city of Atlantis. I know that probably sounds interesting, but it really is bad.
It arrived safe and sound.
There was a dancing shark in there who is continually singing some of the most generic Disney try-hard songs I've ever heard.
Out, needless to say, the feast is taken with the prey.
Followed by an octopus whose lip-syncing and acting skills rival Tommy Wiseau.
It's amazing.
I did not hit her. I did not.
Pardon the animation quality of the footage, but this really is how I received it. The plot is not only a two-dimensional shallow fanfic of the Titanic movie, it is the worst fanfic I've ever read. Tentacolino is among the most forgettable animated movies I've ever watched. And for number 6, 8 Crazy Nights. Long, long ago, in 2002, the evil Adam Sandler was raining terror down in our theaters with cinematic abominations that permanently scarred the reputation of Hollywood. But then suddenly, he stopped and thought, "Wait a minute," he said, "I could destroy the cartoon industry too." So off the evil Adam Sandler went to create 8 Crazy Nights, the most terrible Christmas special ever created. His most evil abomination yet. 8 Crazy Nights is one of the most annoying, ear-piercing, offensively stupid animated movies to ever deface our local cinemas. Filled with continual crap jokes, burp jokes, and toilet jokes. All while Adam Sandler squeals into your speakers at the top of his voice with his bizarre old man impression.
I knew this young man years ago when his moral fiber was still intact.
It seems more like a bizarre form of psychological torture than it does a movie. Sandler is not charming in this film.
Or the Hanukkah monster will come and take a big crap on your bed.
He's not even relatable in any way. They've somehow managed to take all of Adam Sandler's character's worst qualities and multiply them by 10. Things like a 30-something adult making fun of an 8-year-old's weight are considered comic gold in this movie.
Jelly Jugs, next time you come on my court, you better wear a bra, okay?
It's funny because he's fat and he's a kid. The only way they could top this train wreck is by singing. Oh, no. I'm done. I don't think they could have made this movie more offensive if they'd renamed it 8 Crazy Cripples. It's among the most annoying animated disasters I've ever seen. Until we meet again, Sandler. Number 5. Elf Bowling the Movie. Elf Bowling? So, let me get this straight. You make one of the worst video games of all time. Then you follow this up with one of the worst animated movies of all time. Even the guy in the trailer sounds like he's just puzzling over the script he's meant to be reading.
Could it be that a long, long time ago, Santa started out as a pirate and wound up kicked off his own ship?
Wait, I'm meant to be saying this is interesting? Really, guys? This movie ticks all the boxes for badness of biblical proportions. Eye-gougingly ugly CG, cringe-worthy voice acting, and the story is so nonsensical that they're just as likely to just break into making armpit noises. In a desperate attempt to fill a 90-minute runtime, they even added musical numbers. I'd like to reiterate that we are singing about elf bowling. Could any of this possibly make any less sense? So the story is Santa used to be a pirate. Santa used to be a pirate.
Put all them crates of stolen toys in me cabin.
Then Santa's evil brother Dingle tries to ruin Christmas. Somehow this all involves elf bowling. This film has so little reason to be made, it could cause a time paradox. It's completely illogical, and I'd really avoid it. And for number 4, Dougal, aka the Magic Roundabout, US version. Oh, I thought 4Kids editing was bad. The editing on this is just so bad, so wrong, just makes no sense. The CG in this one is so sickly, colourful and smooth that it's nauseating. CG animation has never looked so sickly. What was I even complaining about with Chicken Little? This looks far worse. Dougal is a dog who was unfortunate enough to be beaten with an ugly stick by a very hairy man. Our poor hideous hero creates a fellowship of ugly Disney CG rejects to gather the 3 stones to rule them all. On their journey, they will plagiarize Lord of the Rings with bad jokes, painful dialogue, and impressively lackluster action that will make paint drying seem thrilling. I just get this visceral reaction to CG like this. I don't know exactly what it is, but something about looking at this animation makes me feel queasy. The main character Dougal is a dog that loves candy and speaks with such a flat monotone voice that I'm still not quite sure he's not a computer voice synthesizer.
Of course! If you bring me an air pump, some glue, 4 water skis, a trombone, and a package...
And the main villain is an evil wizard called Z-Bad, and I guess his good-natured cousin is called Z-Good. The plot is just a paper-thin Lord of the Rings fan-fiction-y mess, and most of the dialogue consists of corny one-liners that referencing other far better movies. This cut-up, broken, annoying CG heaping pile of ugly definitely doesn't deserve your time. Number 3. A Car's Life. Wow. Now this is ugly CG. It's just a 9-car pileup of hideous. I thought we had bad in Dougal, but clearly we haven't even scratched the surface of how bad zero-budget 5-minute CG can be. Imagine Fast and the Furious. Now imagine they had 1/1,000,000th of the budget, hired a pot-smoking hobo to voice the lines, smeared fecal matter all over the camera lens, and then, no, that movie would still be better than A Car's Life. So our hero is Sparky. Our crap-coloured, ugly, obnoxious hero is off to the gas station, where he plays with a car named Diesel that turns out to be a bad influence on him.
Life is short and cruel, Sparky. Who cares what the other cars think?
Can Sparky's father stop him from doing something dangerous? Let's hope not. Let's hope these cars are all incinerated in a fiery car explosion. This movie was so bad that it gave me a new appreciation for Disney's abysmal planes. At least the backgrounds didn't make me nauseous. Then we get to the voices. These voices sound just awful.
Flashing lights! You were right!
For some reason, I immediately associated these voices with my childhood nightmares. Maybe that's my own bias, but when your voice incites childhood trauma in adults, you probably shouldn't be voice acting animated talking cars. When I think of all the young, aspiring 3D animators out there struggling to find work to see this chimpanzee pit of broken CG doodles, I just think it's just not right. If you find this DVD, I recommend you find a safe place to incinerate it. And the second worst animated movie is A Troll in Central Park.
The director of An American Tail takes children of all ages.
Okay, stop right there. This is not for children of all ages. This monstrosity fits into the embryo to 1 category very snugly, and even that's pushing it. I hate this little troll. I somehow hated this movie even when I first saw it when I was 7. Freaking 7! And I still thought the Care Bears was cool. But Care Bears was masculine and cool compared to this cartoon. Don't get me wrong, I adore Don Bluth's original movies. Land Before Time has moments in it that still make me shed a tear 20 years after first watching it. When Littlefoot's mother died, that timeless speech afterwards from that dinosaur to Littlefoot, oh, just timeless brilliance.
That too will go in time, little fella. Only in time.
Many are probably familiar with this one as the nastiest boil on Don Bluth's career. How we went from emotionally moving, heart-wrenching masterpieces to something so nauseatingly sappy that it makes Care Bears look R-rated.
We couldn't live in a world that's bright.
This is the most sappy, sugar-coated, brainless animated movie I've ever seen. As nauseating as it is, the animation's at least clear and fairly well drawn. But this socially challenged troll just makes me cringe in his creepy interactions with these very young children. Some people probably know I like a little bit of sappiness. But this just makes no attempt to challenge kids in any way. Kids would be more intellectually stimulated by staring at a brick wall. It's generic. It's just the most sickly, sappy, contrived piece of animation I've ever seen. Troll in Central Park is terrible for children of all ages. Rated S for stupid. Before we get to number 1, I'd like to give a couple of quick honorable mentions. Little Panda Fighter. Jeebus! The CG on these just keeps getting worse. A terrible ripoff of Kung Fu Panda. The animation stinks and the voice acting is very subpar. There's little else to say. Drawn Together, the movie. This movie is bad. In fact, I consider it among the worst cartoons of all time. Not because I hate it, but simply because it's bad. This isn't just a 9-car pileup. It's a citywide explosive disaster that took out anything within a 10-mile radius, destroying the careers of an entire team of writers and voice actors in its nightmarish wake. But I have talked about it before in my worst cartoons, so I left it off the list. Norm of the North. Norm has a tedious, meandering story and incredibly uninteresting characters. But it was another I just didn't find quite insultingly bad enough to be among the absolute worst. The problem was I was just bored watching this one the whole way through. It didn't really offend me on a personal level though, so I left it off the list. Nutjob. I didn't forget it. I actually just found Nutjob refreshingly inoffensive. The CG isn't bad, and the voice acting is okay. And it seemed like the writers were at least trying with the story, so I gave it a skip. Hoodwinked 2. The CG is pretty subpar, but I didn't mind the story that much. The script and wordplay did feel weak as water, but I felt like the voice actors were trying their best to make something good out of this one, so it didn't quite make the list. Chicken Little. Personally, I think even the worst of animated Disney movies is better than these movies. I'll admit, Chicken Little is looking pretty good compared to these. Anyway, here we go. And the number 1 worst animated movie is Food Fight.
Oh, I'll make space.
Welcome to how to make the worst animated movie of all time. Here we will demonstrate everything you should do to assure your audience is running and screaming from their seats in terror. 1. Begin by making your backgrounds as blurry and block-like as possible. Audience members should have no idea what they're actually meant to be looking at. 2. If you're not moving the camera, there's clearly something wrong with you. Even in a still shot, make sure you're continually zooming the camera in and out. You should be constantly attempting to give your audience motion sickness. 3. Make sure the green of your trees is that special puke color to make the audience envision the great metropolitan sewerage system when they're watching your cinematic train wreck. 4. Assure the camera is jerky, and I mean really jerky. It should give your audience the impression that their computer screen is broken. 5. Make sure your characters look as dead-eyed and zombie-like as possible. Make sure their skin has that special plastic texture to it, so the audience feels like they're staring at undead Barbie dolls. 6. Congratulations, you now have your walking abominations. Now assure they regularly mug to the camera in order to terrify your audience. If your audience is not crapping their pants, then continue to practice. 7. Have at least one of your characters literally be the color of crap. This will assure your audience has most definitely thrown up before the 15-minute mark. 8. All movement should be unnatural, highly disturbing, and make your audience envision the dancing demons of hell. 9. There should be at least 200 advertising references in your movie. This will make your audience feel cheap, degraded, and manipulated. Number 10. have twisted, bizarre morals, and strange bestiality undertones in your characters. This will assure the 2 remaining audience members who haven't run out of the theatre screaming feel tormented and horrified. Congratulations! Your ungodly abomination of mankind is now ready to be unleashed upon the world. Nostalgia Critic was right. Jontron was right. Why didn't I listen to them? This makes Chicken Little look like the Mona Lisa. The jokes are terrible, the lines make no sense, the graphics are a heinous catastrophe, the lip syncing doesn't even try to match what they're saying, and the lines they spout wouldn't pass in a German porno. Food Fight is the worst animated movie I've ever had the misfortune of watching. But you know what the strange part is? Apart from exceptions like that, animated movies are one of the best guarantees of a good movie experience nowadays. I personally think animated movies are actually one of the leaders in quality cinema nowadays. So really, I had to look very hard to find these, because there's just too many good animated movies out there now. There are too many masterpieces to even notice the occasional bad ones. Do you think I missed a couple of movies? If you think so, feel free to let me know in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.